Hi. The reason for this recording is to talk a little bit about AngularJS URLs and routing, because this has been something that has confused me for some time because there are so many different ways of doing this, and there are so many different tools that are also available for routing in AngularJS. And the more complex your AngularJS application becomes, the routes become much more important, and if it's a professional product, you also want your routes to look very professional. For example, if you go to twitter.com, I can simply go to twitter.com/sid_azad, which is my ID, and that takes me to my profile. So this is something very convenient, and that's really how routes should be. So the purpose is to explore how routes can be used in different ways and how different kinds of routes can be used in AngularJS. So what are the different kinds of routes that we know about? On the modern web, we often see routes which have a hashbang. So they look something like this: xyz.com/hashbang profile/something. So basically, there is a main route which is the site's name, and after that there's a hash and a bang symbol, and then the route goes to something else, maybe profile or username or something of that sort. So the reason this was done, and I believe this was made popular by Twitter, was to use routing via front-end frameworks. So frameworks like Backbone.js or Ember.js, now AngularJS, can take care of routing. And for them to understand routing, a hash and a bang was used so that the browser knows, or rather the framework knows, that this route is meant for them to interpret. Now that frameworks have matured, there is a way to get around not using these hashbangs. And AngularJS does provide an easy way of doing that, but it comes with a few quirks which you need to know about. And why would we want to avoid these hash and bangs? Well, because they're kind of unnatural. People don't really think of internet routes as hashbangs, so we would like to avoid them. We would like our routes to look very plain and simple, like xyz.com/profile instead of xyz.com/hashbang profile. And it's much easier to remember that way as well, because most people may not remember the hashbang in your route. So having said that, let's establish a few prerequisites. We will be understanding the routing using a couple of tools today. One is this website, which is actually live on AngularJStutor.com, which is a website for my AngularJS course. This website itself is written in AngularJS, and as you can see, the routes don't have hashbangs here. So if I browse to this course contents tab, the route actually changes to /toc. And if I go to About Me, again the route changes to AngularJStutor.com/aboutme. So, and if I press the back button, it works perfectly. And it wasn't straightforward to get this done, but once you figure it out, you can do it. So there are a few things that you may want to look at when you are trying to do a very smooth routing using a modern single-page application. And AngularJS provides you a router, but there's also a third-party router called the UI router. And if you work a lot with AngularJS, I'm sure you've already seen this. The cool thing about UI router is, instead of treating routes as pages, it gives you the concept or the granularity of having states. So you can think of an application as going through several states. For example, you can say, right now I'm on the home state or landing state. If I go to course contents, I'm on the course content state. And then you can nested states. So an action taken place inside the TOC state or on the same page as the TOC state, so contained inside the TOC state, might be called TOC.thatAction. So you can really conceptualize the states that your application goes through, and you can write those states in your routing. So I'll show you an example of that, because that's what AngularJStutor.com is using. Now the code base for AngularJS Tutor is available on GitHub, at https://github.com/setazad/AngularJS tutor. So you can definitely browse through it. In fact, maybe we should just take a look here. Now, the app.js is where the routing has been set up. So you will see that in this checked-in version, I have set the HTML5 mode of the location provider of AngularJS to false. And I have set the hash prefix to bang. Well, this isn't the version that the website, as you see it, is using. It's actually using HTML5 mode equals true. So let me actually show you the code on my local machine. HTML5 mode is true. I'm running this, and by the way, the backend for this website is Django. So I'm running this locally, and my routing works fine. Now what happens if I set the HTML5 mode equals false? Let's see. Nothing happens. So my website kind of broke. Now I'm going to put a hashbang here. And the website works, which means I'm actually now in hashbang mode. So when you set HTML5 mode equals false, AngularJS routing goes into the default mode, which is HTML5 off, and that's the hashbang mode. But if you set HTML5 mode equals true, you switch back to the HTML5 mode, which most modern browsers will support. And what that means is that it will tie up to the HTML5 history API when using the back forward buttons of the router, and you will not get a hashbang in your URLs. So it'll simply be /toc/about_me. So that's a simple way of showing how you can disable or enable hashbangs. Now it's actually not that simple. Now let me show you one more thing. This is my urls.py file in Django. Now it's similar to the routes file in Ruby on Rails, and if you're not familiar with these, basically it's a very simple file. It's saying on the server side what should it send back for a certain request that it receives. So here it says that whenever the URL starts with load template, I should send back the response generated by this piece of code. And this $, says that whenever I receive any other request, I should use this code for the response. So when I actually go to the website initially, this is the code that sends the response back. When I have HTML5 mode enabled, think about what's happening. So I'm going to open the debug panel of Chrome and go into the network tab and simply load this website first time. So the first request is localhost. If you look at the headers, the URL is simply localhost 8000. So it's really the root URL, the slash. Now if I go to this next, go to the about me page, click on that. This is my request, and this is the URL that I'm getting. Now let me press the refresh button on the browser, and let's see what happens while I'm on the about me page. Well, a lot happened. Now what exactly happened here? Let's look at the about me request. The URL was localhost 8000/about me. But my urls.py doesn't have any such URL. So what actually happened is it hit this generic catch-all URL, and it simply loaded the code for the home page, which is the same code that gets loaded when localhost 8000 without any /about me is hit. Now why did this happen? This needs to happen because the browser doesn't know when I refresh that the browser doesn't need to go back to the server, and it can simply use AngularJS routing to figure out the route for about me. It doesn't know that because AngularJS is not working anymore since I've refreshed the browser. This is very important. It's a subtle point, but it's very important. When I refresh, AngularJS is not hooked up in the browser anymore. It's a new page reload. So the browser simply sends this whole URL back to the server. Now, if I didn't have this piece of code for handling all URLs or catch all, then actually my website would not work. And I will show you an example of this. Now let me make some changes to urls.py. I'm comment this catch-all URL, and instead of that put some specific URLs. So I have URL for anything starting with course.des, anything starting with TOC, and anything starting with the dollar, which is the base URL, which is my slash. So let's hit the website now. So it loads fine. Now the real test is refreshing the website. It refreshes fine too, because what happens is the URL that goes to the server is /course.des. It matches this case, and it simply returns the same thing that it always returns, which is my index page. And once the index page is returned, AngularJS gets loaded, and the Angular routing gets hooked in, and Angular sees that the route is /course.des, and it finds the correct template for course.des, and it loads that template and shows the data. And just to prove it to you that it's actually loading that template, let's see, it should be somewhere here. So it loads a template course.des.html. How does AngularJS know which template to load? Well, that you can see in app.js. We have configured the URL starting with course.des to load the course.des.html template. So, and that state is landing.course.des. So that's how that works. Now we have a URL for TOC also there in urls.py in our change. What we don't have is a URL for about me. So about me page works because as long as I'm clicking on about me, Angular is already loaded. So Angular knows how to fetch the template for URLs for about me, and it loads it. But what happens when Angular is not loaded? That is when I refresh the page. My server throws an error because it doesn't know what /about me is. Now, what if I had hashbang URLs? What would happen in that case? Let's try it out. So I'm going to set HTML5 mode to false in my app.js config, and I'm going to reload the website. Okay. Switch to TOC, refresh TOC, switch to about me, refresh about me, and the refresh about me works. Why does it work? Why does it work in hashbang mode but not in the HTML5 mode equals true in non-hashbang mode? The reason is because the URL that is being sent to the browser when we refresh about me is still the base URL. It's not /about me. And that's because just the way URLs work in browsers. After the hash, the URL sees, the browser sees this part, and it thinks that this is an anchor link. So it just ignores it. So it's left on the page for Angular to handle. So you don't need a URL anymore for about me. In fact, I can remove all these other URLs, and my website will still work. So this is an important difference between hashbang and non-hashbang mode, because if you don't know this and you're switching around, then you might get confused, and I actually did get confused and burned by this for an hour or so. So I figured this would save anybody else who is playing around with AngularJS URLs some time, and that's the reason for this post. So feel free to look around, and also please do visit my website angularjstutor.com, and you can take my course if you like it. This website is actually for my course, and it's available on Vimeo. You can buy it or rent it on Vimeo for cheaper, and you can look at the details on this page. You can look at everything that it covers. And if you want to take a class on Udemy instead of Vimeo, you can go to Udemy, and it's also available on Udemy. You can search for AngularJS, and the course is called AngularJS Fundamentals and Practice. And there's also a coupon code that's available on Udemy for this course, which I will post on my website angularjstutor.com shortly. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it'll save you some time. Thank you.